In a statement, His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada said, "Leadership is by example, and the launch of the vaccine symbolized hope and strategic commitment by his government and its multilateral and bilateral partners to protect the country, frontline health personnel, and most vulnerable groups of the country's population."
At this stage, it is a milestone that we've been trying to fight off COVID using measures, but now we have the vaccine. And thanks be to the People's Republic of China and the COVAX facility, we have 2 sets of vaccines here that are quite safe and also efficacious. I'm saying so from what I've heard from our specialists.
Receiving the scorecard, President Dr. Julius Maada thanked the American ambassador and the MCC for what he called a more objective evaluation of what his government was doing, adding that the MCC scorecard was an aggregation of different independent groups who were watching the government's governing system. As a country, we are happy for this progress, especially as it is related to energy and water, which are very important components. The Threshold program of the MCC has been of great help, and we hope that the foundation led by this program will actually help us in those 2 sectors, President Bio noted.
The evaluation of what we are doing, especially as it relates to energy and water, which are very important components. The Threshold program has been a great help, and we hope that the foundation laid by the Threshold program will actually help us to build on that sector, the 2 sectors. But the fact that, the MCC score is also an aggregation of different independent groups. For me, I always look forward to seeing how well we are faring on. So thank you very much.
The MCC, created in 2004, is an independent United States government agency that works to reduce global poverty through economic growth. It provides time-limited grants and assistance to poor countries like Sierra Leone that met rigorous standards for good governance, from fighting corruption to respecting democratic rights. Delivering his keynote address, His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada said that his presence at Funkia in the west of the capital city was a testament of the fact that his government has placed priority on the role of the transport sector was playing to improve the standards of living of people and the enhancement of the nation's economic growth.
So, Funkia got rich. Promise made, promise kept.
Yes, sir.
And we can also, we can't fulfill the promise. The promise that been said, we will give you this road, because this road not fit to them. You see when the man sings self, they say Funkia Bunga also, but I have already can also, but we will make sure say, we will come Funkia, we can't do tourism, because you know say good road there, and you will come, instead of you say you misses, you say come by fish fire.
With the partnership and generosity of the People's Republic of China, we have delivered a well-built bridge in 5 months, just as We have delivered a well-built bridge in 5 months, just as I announced back in November 2018. We are a talk and do government. On behalf of the government and people of Sierra Leone, we acknowledge with much gratitude the continued generosity and support of the government and people of the People's Republic of China. They have, for nearly 50 years of friendly relationship, consistently provided technical assistance and capacity building for various sectors, improved public health and healthcare institutions, enhanced livelihood, and helped to modernize agriculture and develop infrastructure in our country.
In his keynote address before launching the project, President Dr. Julius Maada disclosed that in the South region, Sierra Leone will be the only country where partners has demonstrated short confidence to invest short money in a major infrastructure project, even during COVID-19. His Excellency, President Dr. Julius Maada has witnessed the signing of contract for the design, supply and installation of 11 kV sub-transmission and distribution network on Bon Shabu Island, southern Sierra Leone. In a statement before the signing of contract and commissioning of the start of the work, His Excellency, President Dr. Julius Maada said that Bond District had been neglected for a long time and that he was pleased that there were many projects for the district, which he said would dignify Bond and make it very attractive for the purpose of tourism.
The speaker will now young begin and way they represent to now in and the other picking the owner get, including me myself, wait map now, they know they allow me to make a blow. They say we need for catch up na bonds. This now with district headquarters, but we all know say that we don't neglect them. We not for neglect them.
While addressing the press, His Excellency President Julius Maada stated that all persons who were summoned to the Commission of Inquiry were not summoned because of their ethnic group, their region, or their political party. They were summoned because they had been entrusted with a supreme responsibility to serve Sierra Leone. It is their conduct as individual and their decisions why they serve the country. His Excellency President Julius Maada thanked the commissioners for carrying out independent, fair and impartial investigations into allegations of corruption and abuse of public office and to make relevant findings and proffer appropriate recommendations to the government of Sierra Leone for their consideration.
The commissioners carrying out thorough, independent, fair and impartial investigation into the allegations of corruption and abuse of public office to make relevant findings and prepare appropriate recommendations to the government of Sierra Leone for our consideration. We are mindful that time and space could not permit an inquiry of this nature to cover every single economic, financial and administrative activity of the immediate post-government, past government. But the commissioners did their best in the circumstances.
The Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Animan Muhammad, has called on His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada to discuss efforts towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, the African Union's Agenda 2063, and support to the COVID-19 socio-economic response and recovery plan. Vice President Dr. Mohamed Julde Jallo said he was honored and privileged to welcome the United Nations Deputy Secretary General and her entourage, noting that the visit was an opportunity to witness firsthand the socio-economic progress of the country so far.
Excellency, we want to thank you very much, like my colleague minister just said, for this very historic moment and your historic visit, and also to be part of this process to unveil the report of the Joint Assessment Mission on Youth at Risk in Sierra Leone, as well as the United Nations COVID-19 Socio-Economic Response Plan. I think what is important is that the unveiling of both documents, launching of both documents, signal the importance of partnership and effective collaboration to address not only the youth crisis, but as well as supporting Sierra Leone to put the country back on the recovery process after COVID-19.
His Excellency, President Dr. Julius Maada has toured major towns in the Karina district as part of his inclusive approach to governance and share his government's district-specific achievement for citizens in that part of the country, 56 kilometers from the capital city of Freetown. President Dr. Julius Maada told the residents of Karina district that he is in the district to interact with them and see for himself what their needs are, and the reason he spent 2 nights with them.
The problems they want to talk about, only people will deal with. Nine of the road from here to Namakut, and the bridges they want to talk about. Karina as a district, it needs plenty in them. We don't know more need. Now when I get 5 ferries there, we got for change all them ferries there into bridges. So it don't matter which time of the year. So it don't matter which time of the year. We are going to crisscross as we are then at the center so that people can be able to go about their business. The first bridge we go for make now the Kaba ferry. After that, we kind of temporary. Then we go down left 3. Then we go make sure say we clear all so that the district will be fully integrated and we will be able to move about the district. But what we don't do as a government, now I come to what we stand for. When a human capital development, the SLPP now for people them. I make the call and say Sierra Leone People's Party. Not to just name we the people there we they come for. For make sure say we change the way we then live for the better. So when we make free quality education, now because we don't say education now the one way for we remove people there from poverty. Now the one way for change community then. Now the one way for change the whole country. Now the education and they give the key, that universal key where you can use for open doors anywhere in the world.
His Excellency, President Julius Maada extended his gratitude to the European Commission President for their unflinching support to his new direction administration, whilst at the same time reiterated his commitment to strengthening the bilateral relations with the European Commission.
Over the last 2 years, the new secret for our resilience and success as a nation is that we plan diligently and insist on doing things the right way very well. This informs why our development partners believe in where we are going as a nation and in what we are doing for our country. In my government's New Direction Manifesto, we committed to accelerating decentralization, strengthening local governance by enhancing capacity building and broadening participation, expanding revenue streams, and supporting local governments to sustainably deliver and account for local development and services.
Given his statement, His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada said, "Leadership is by example, and the launch of the vaccine symbolized hope and strategic commitment by his government and its multilateral and bilateral partners to protect the country, frontline health personnel, and most vulnerable groups of the country's population."
At this stage, it is a milestone that we've been trying to fight off COVID using measures, but now we have the vaccine. And thanks be to the People's Republic of China and the COVAX facility, we have 2 sets of vaccines here that are quite safe and also efficacious. I'm saying so from what I've heard from our specialists.
Receiving the scorecard, President Dr. Julius Maada thanked the American ambassador and the MCC for what he called a more objective evaluation of what his government was doing, adding that the MCC scorecard was an aggregation of different independent groups who were watching the government's governing system. As a country, we are happy for this progress, especially as it is related to energy and water, which are very important components. The Threshold program of the MCC has been of great help, and we hope that the foundation laid by this program will actually help us in those two sectors, President Bio noted.
The evaluation of what we are doing, especially as it relates to energy and water, which are very important components. The Threshold program has been a great help, and we hope that the foundation laid by the Threshold program will actually help us to build on that sector, the two sectors. But the fact that, the MCC score is also an aggregation of different independent groups. For me, I always look forward to seeing how well we are faring on. So thank you very much.
The MCC, created in 2004, is an independent United States government agency that works to reduce global poverty through economic growth. It provides time-limited grants and assistance to poor countries like Sierra Leone that meant rigorous standard for good governance, from fighting corruption to respecting democratic rights. Delivering his keynote address, His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada said that his presence at Funkia in the west of the capital city was a testament of the fact that his government has placed priority on the role of the transport sector was playing to improve the standards of living of people and the enhancement of the nation's economic growth.
Promise made, promise kept.
Yes, sir.
And we can also, we can't fulfill the promise. The promise that been said, we will give you this road, because this road not fit to now. You see where the man sings self. Like he says, Funkia, Bunga also, but I have already got also. But we will make sure say, you will come Funkia, you can't do tourism, because you know say good road there, and you will come, instead of you say you miss this is come by fish hire.
With the partnership and generosity of the People's Republic of China, we have delivered a well-built bridge in 5 months, just as We have delivered a well-built bridge in 5 months, just as I announced back in November 2018. We are a talk and do government. On behalf of the government and people of Sierra Leone, we acknowledge with much gratitude the continued generosity and support of the government and people of the People's Republic of China. They have, for nearly 50 years of friendly relationship, consistently provided technical assistance and capacity building for various sectors, improved public health and healthcare institutions, enhanced livelihood and helped modernize agriculture and develop infrastructure in our country.
In his keynote address before launching the project, President Dr. Julius Maada disclosed that in the South region, Sierra Leone will be the only country where partners has demonstrated short confidence to invest short money in a major infrastructure project, even during COVID-19. His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada has witnessed the signing of contract for the design, supply and installation of 11 kV sub-transmission and distribution network on Bon Shabu Island, southern Sierra Leone. In a statement before the signing of contract and commissioning of the start of the work, His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada said that Bond District had been neglected for a long time and that he was pleased that there were many projects for the district, which he said would dignify Bond and make it very attractive for the purpose of tourism.
The speaker will now you begin a way they represent you now
and education in Sierra Leone.
I will start with education. Education good for personal development and also national development. The human capital, we the people in this country, are the most important resource we'll get. Sometimes we ask the Sierra Leonean, they begin count diamond, gold. They're not even sabi waiting a gold, waiting a diamond. But we believe say the human beings, then we, the people, constitute the most important asset to this country. But for me to be useful to our country and contribute meaningfully, we need to get education, quality education, give skills and the knowledge we go make we free for move around the world, become competitive and also become productive in this modern world. Therefore, the flagship program of the new manifesto, the People's Manifesto, now free education for all kids from primary school to secondary school. A lot of people, they drop out of school because they don't get money for pay the little that they need for pay. Me, don't say I go pay, as a government, we go pay for all kids in primary school, public primary school and secondary school. Sometimes they say it's very expensive, but I always tell people, they say, for spend by the human being, for me, not expensive. If you want, try ignorance. Ignorance is more expensive than education. Health, you cannot develop without a healthy population. And therefore, we therefore make sure, say, the limited investment we would put into the health sector, we actually develop not only the physical infrastructure, but also the human resource capacity for able to do what we call disease prevention, disease control, and also disease surveillance. We therefore make sure, say, we get the right people for able to do all of the internet in the health sector so that we will get a healthy population for undertake the development aspirations of our country.
Can you flesh out a little bit on what you mean by free education? Does that mean people will not pay fees and anything else?
The free education where they talk about includes they cover pupils from class 1 till and down secondary school. Of course, we take the SS4 because now a waste of time where the APC bring. This particular program, they cover school fees, books and uniform and other educational materials. That means they don't get for pay for all of them things. And
how much will that cost? How much will that cost?
Say again?
How much will that cost the state?
I'm not getting you.
Okay, my apologies. How much will it cost to provide this free education?
According to the census, school census of 2015, we get 2 million kids we will get for work for. Using a unit price of 380,000 leons, that go amount to 115 billion. And we go able to get that money easily by making sure that excessive tax waivers and tax exemptions are reduced by 50%.
Thank you very much.
In a statement, His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada said, leadership is by example, and the launch of the vaccine symbolized hope and strategic commitment.
2021. It is a special edition of the Star Good Morning Show here on Star Television. We broadcast live from our Media One Center 3 Mama Street, Oakfields in Freetown. My name is Abdul Rahman Kamara. Our inspirational quote for today comes from Robert Steels, who says, "The great secret of success is to go through life like a man who never got used to." The 4th April this year marks His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada 3 years since he was elected as president against the backdrop of his party's manifesto, which encompasses the new direction vision statement with a united, peaceful, progressive, and happy nation where the people have access to jobs, food and education, including health services, equal justice and opportunity for all. The vision is now translated into the government of Sierra Leone's new medium-term national development plan, 2019 to 2023, founded on a strong political commitment to deliver development results that could improve the welfare of Sierra Leonean citizens. 3 years down the line, His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada is my guest in the studio. He's here to tell me his own success story to the people of this country. Your Excellency, I have the honor and privilege to welcome you to Star Television.
Thank you very much.
Sierra Leone has managed to achieve a turnaround from what seemed to be a challenging economy to a nation with a promise and potential in the last 3 years of implementing the new direction. How will you appraise the socio-economic milestone in Sierra Leone under your leadership and your assessment about governance?
Thank you very much. And today I want to start off by saying that governance is never easy or simple. It's an extremely difficult process, and until you are there, all your prescriptions in your manifesto, you really never get to realize how extremely difficult it is to realize most of what you plan for. But when you get there and reality dawns on you, that is when you have the need, or you see the need to plan again, afresh, so that you can actually proceed. So it has been extremely difficult. Ours is a state still, I cannot say it's fragile, but we inherited an extremely difficult economy. And without using it as an excuse, we've been making the effort to revamp the economy so that it can support our development process. Donors will come in, but we have to use our own resources for our development purpose. So it's been an extremely difficult 3 years, but we are very hopeful that the foundation that we are laying and some of the reforms that we have undertaken and still intend to undertake, the changes, the direction in which we are moving, will definitely yield a positive result.
Your Excellency, I'm pretty much aware that one of the national goals identified in the medium-term national development plan is a nation with educated, empowered, and healthy citizens capable of realizing their fullest potential. Are you happy with the implementation of the free quality education program?
More can be done, but so far I'm happy that as an administration we had the audacity to dare to say we will launch the free quality education, which means every child born in Sierra Leone will have the opportunity to go to school, and they will not have to pay for all the expenses for going to school. It is a national program, and therefore you would expect it to be extremely difficult to roll out, especially taking into consideration the fact that we did not meet anything in the coffers. In 4 months, we were able to plug up all the leakages, and what we were able to accumulate is what we use to start off the free quality education. We started off the free quality education from the resources of this country. We did not have any donor participation. So that's why I said we are audacious enough, and we believe in the fact that education is so important that we should do everything to make sure every child in this country has the opportunity to go to school. And aside from education, the importance which is so enormous to society, we also have been able to make sure that our development process is inclusive. The child sitting in Falaba district, Suleiman, or Kailan should have access to education just as the child here in Freetown. That is inclusive development. We want to make sure that nobody is left behind. And by taking on that task, we are not only taking care of 2.5 million kids in school, we are paying for them, buying books for them, paying for their transitional exams, freeing resources of parents so that they can use for other purposes. This is what a lot of people don't recognize, that we have freed up millions, if not billions of leons to society, to parents all around by taking care of the school fees, the tuition, the learning and teaching materials, and even for when we talk about quality, we have employed another 5,000 teachers. We have increased their salary by 30%, all from our own resources. So quite a lot is going on. But of course, when you deal with all challenges like corruption in this country, when we try to put resources together, there are always people find a way to take the resources away. So we've had challenges in terms of people trying to inflate numbers in schools so that what is allocated to them will be a little bigger than what the number of kids they have in schools. So there are several challenges. A national program of this magnitude is not easy to roll out, but we are up to the challenges, and because we are optimistic and we know that education is the best foundation for national personal development, that we invest that. No nation has surged forward in development without solid quality education.
And bringing another point that we have a kind of inextricably linked with what you're just talking about, the human capital development, the aspect of building a sound economy. I'm looking at a point where how far has Sierra Leone in its efforts been able to achieve food security and greater exports? When you talk of education, and this is self-financing without the input of international partners, and this is an area, for whichever you want to say, is pretty much commendable. Looking at these two strands, we rely on the greater exportation and ensuring food security. How will you tie up this argument to present a very sound proposition in the East?
Agriculture is one of the pillars of our human capital development. I believe that if you can feed the brain, that is education, and feed the tummy, that is food security, and take care of the well-being of the human being, that human being is fit for purpose and can go anywhere and thrive. That is the premise on which I am supporting the human capital development. You don't need to be babysitted. Once you are well, once you have food security and you have your skills, knowledge, you can even leave Sierra Leone and still find a job somewhere else in the world and leave. You don't have to call President Bio anymore. That freedom, that universal key to prosperity is what I want to give to every Sierra Leonean child in this country. So food security has been an extremely difficult thing to achieve, but I think we have been lazy as a nation and we have not been serious about it. Because we have enough arable land, we have enough rainfall, all we need to do is to plan how we are going to use these resources to produce enough food for us, and also engage in the production of other cash crops so that we can sell, export, and get money. And that is what we have started now. We have a policy shift in the Ministry of Education. We are providing support through the private sector to provide inputs to farmers who have been registered, so that let's say seeds, fertilizers, and any other chemical that is needed to protect their crops, and we are providing them with high yield seeds so that their productivity will increase. Where they used to do an acre and get a ton of rice or a ton and a half, they will now get 5, 6, because we are introducing new seeds. And we have provided over 400 tractors, and we have organized them in what we call machine rings. So in every district, all of those more than 400 tractors have been distributed to machine rings all around the country. If you are in Cambia, you go to this station, you will ask them, I want to do 50 acres of rice, and the government will support you so that they provide the machine and the seeds, at least for the next few years, until you become a viable agriculture, you have a viable agriculture enterprise, so that you now see this not as a back-breaking job or a menial job, but as a way of life, as business, one that gives you disposable income, one where you can actually make money from, take care of yourself, take care of your kids, and a better life for yourself. So that is our intervention as far as agriculture is concerned. And those machines have been distributed. Now it is the organization. It's extremely difficult again, of course, to get all, because the private sector are involved. They are going to be allocated these machines, and if you want them, you go there. Government is providing vouchers for all registered farmers, those who are registered with the government, so that they can access the seeds and also other inputs for quality production.
You reiterated at the beginning of a governance that every government official should own a farm. Are you still holding that impression?
Yes. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago we were discussing that, and I want to know where the farms are. I don't need to tell you that I'm a farmer. I was a farmer even before I got to this position. I believe in farming, and I think that we can make farming fashionable when we can understand farming better if we, the so-called elites, are involved in it and see how productive it is, and the others. Because here, when you tell somebody to go to the farm, they think you look down upon them. So I want to be the first one to do it, and I'm encouraging government officials to do it also. Besides the fact that they will be producing food, but they will be setting a very good example for the rest of the society, that this is not a menial job, this is not a job you can look down on. Every human being, from the richest to the poorest, from the youngest to the oldest, we all need food on a regular, daily basis.
Your Excellency, you won an election in 2018 that ushered you into governance amidst a rather divided nation. Choose to call it political polarization as opposed to national allegiance. Is addressing the story issue still a top-notch priority?
It is, because we need to be united as a nation to move or to meaningfully engage development. In the first place, even you cannot start development or meaningful development if you don't plan. And to plan means you have to get the input of everybody involved in the state. So when you have major political groupings, it is nice to have their buy-in into that particular planning process, so that irrespective of changes in administration, let's say, for example, we all have agreed that education is important for us, whether it's APC, whether it's NGC, whether it's C4C that comes into administration, they know that, hey, the free quality education, we can only boost it up. Nobody should touch it. This is how they, even when we were in opposition, we made an input, and we all agree that it is important. So that cohesion, that blurring of the differences between political parties to encourage what should be our preoccupation as one of the least developed countries in the world, which is development, we should make an effort. It is still important to me, and of course, it is easier said than done, because thinking about it, we have been so polarized that some people don't just accept the fact that an APC and an SRPP or NGC should be sitting anywhere and having a drink together, or even talking, or living together, or doing things together. That challenge we have to tackle as a nation. We are too polarized around political parties until we can blur that and make them totally insignificant in our transactions, in how we consider things. It is going to be difficult to make progress. So I'm still very much committed to seeing, of course, multi-party democracy, but where our being part of different political parties does not choke off the development process or get into the way of making progress in life.
You waged 3 wars, among them is corruption. Granted that, Your Excellency, there has been some marked indicators in winning the fights against corruption, but in the views of many people, they will tell you the battle has not ended the war yet. And for your critics, it seems that these fights is always seen as a selective show of concern. How do you convince them?
Well, the fight against corruption is a fight we must fight, a fight we must win for ourselves as a nation. I identify corruption as an enemy because it deters development, and mostly for the most vulnerable in our society. Huge amount of monies are taken to wrong places, and the poorest of the poor continue to suffer even more and have no prospect to life or to a place in society where they will be comfortable. So I am not identifying targets. If any member of my administration is involved in corruption, the ACC, which is the main body for corruption, has the right to invite, investigate at any one point in time, and they will tell you, I've never even called them to say don't investigate or investigate this person. I don't have secret cows, and I mean it. So, again, I think this this assertion made in your last statement speaks to the fact that we are polarized around politics, parties, to the extent that even when you do it to your own, people don't say it. But if you do it to one of somebody in another party, that is amplified, and that is what they talk about. When there were corruption allegations against the Minister of the Ministry of Education, Basic and Senior Secondary Education, I stood them down, and I told them to be investigated. I don't do the investigation. The investigations were completed, but I didn't want them to be in a position to influence. I didn't want them to be in a position where they can manipulate. So I am not picking and choosing. The fight against corruption, as you said, we may not it's not a battle that we are going to win very easily. I call it a war. I mean, there are so many battles involved in this war. We have won in certain instances. We have shown a clear, good intention to fight. We have given the freedom and support to ACC, where they are having 100% convictions, instead of where there was political involvement to the point that the ACC did not have the free hand to investigate matters. That is a thing of the past under this administration. So now, what I wanted to do is to make corruption scary, expensive, risky. And now, I cannot say there is no corruption, but people know there is a repercussion. People, even those who steal or attempt to steal, are doing so with some amount of trepidation, fear. It is no longer fashionable, and we will continue to make it riskier to be involved in corruption in this country. And it is a collective fight. Whatever we do as an administration, we require society to work with us. I cannot be in every office. I'm not involved in all transactions. But we have to accept, as a society in Sierra Leone, that we have all been corrupt at one time or the other. Make that determination. I will want to see that person who will say, I've never been involved in corruption in this country. I will want to see that person. You have gone to hospital, you have paid money to teachers where you are not supposed to pay. Even the kids are cheating in school. They are working with their teachers, the nurses, the police, and everybody. So, but because we have recognized and I'm providing the leadership for us to reduce and minimize the impact of corruption, the occurrence of corruption, I think it is a worthy fight that requires all of us to support, so that we can have the resources to apply to national development.
Your Excellency, key among your priorities is gender parity. I pretty much came to know what your government is doing to reduce gender inequality and empower women to participate not only in politics but the economy as well.
The women constitute more than 50% of our population. They can, if we provide support for them, give them the environment, be equal partners in development. And that is our aspiration. And that is what we need to do as a nation, to support our women folk to be equal partners in the development process. Development is an extremely difficult thing. And to put the women at the back and say they cannot, because we the men are the ones who have all the knowledge, the expertise, and the goodwill to bring about development, is wrong. Several things are being done. When we support women, the education, that is why I said free education has a multiplier effect. We are making this available to every child, irrespective of their gender, in this country. One of the limitations have been us not allowing our girl children to go to school. And when they don't go to school, in this 21st century, there are very little opportunities for that girl. So there is a national campaign run by the First Lady to get girls in school, not to give their hands into marriage when at a very young age, to protect them, to stop violence against them, including rape, early pregnancy, and all of these things, to raise their self-esteem so that they can also, with time, be a part of this. That is at the lowest level, and that is for the future, because the girls now we are dealing with are the future leaders. She's even doing the sanitary pad. Why sanitary pad? A lot of men see this as a taboo subject. But face it, it's one of those, menstruation is one of those things that happen naturally at the age of puberty. So a lot of guys lose time from school. They are not able to go to school because they don't have the appropriate attire to take care of themselves. What they lose up to 3 months in a year. That means the girls are at a disadvantage to go into school with the boys. She has discovered this. She's making the effort to provide sanitary pads for as many kids as possible. That's our own effort. We realize this because as we make opportunities available, we want to make sure that nobody is left behind, and the girl child should not be left behind. And that is how we are supporting that. We are encouraging them. They are beginning now. When you go around, they believe that there is somebody fighting for them. There's somebody out there protecting them. But we also have in place laws. The Sexual Offences Act, which we revamped. The Gender Equality and Empowerment Policy. The male involvement policy. Because when you talk about pregnancy, it's not good to leave the burden to the guys only. Let's also talk to the men and the boys who are involved in this. If we believe that we should give opportunity to the girl to go to school, then we have a responsibility to make sure that they are protected, they're in a secure environment, and they are not made to feel like they are not required in society, or they are just there to give birth. So a whole range of activities, especially with, that is why I created the Ministry of Gender and Women's Affairs. So a whole host of activities are going on to make sure that we bring our women folk on board. The women can be a force to reckon with. And recently, the results from the transition exams are showing that the guys are doing extremely well. Even to the extent of the radical inclusion, which means other vulnerable groups, including guys that are pregnant, or guys that have given birth, school-going children that are giving birth, are brought back into the fold as far as education is concerned. So that is all part of a package to make sure that the women are not disadvantaged, because I mean our culture and the many things we do make it impossible or extremely difficult for them to be equal partners in the development process. But we are trying to diminish all of those. We are trying to provide opportunities for them. We are trying to raise their self-esteem. We are trying to make sure that they feel an equal part of society and be part of the development process.
Excellency, before we round up on this discussion here in the studio, let's look at another key important aspect for which over the time you've reiterated the government commitment to actually address this issue. Over the years, there's no denial of the fact that our natural resources has not benefited us to a point that we feel satisfied as a nation. What is your government's strategy of harnessing the country's abundant natural resources to create durable wealth?
On the first place is we have never really taken stock of what we have and how we can strategically use them for the purpose of development. That survey has taken place, and that report will be presented to this nation next month, May, I think about the 5th. If you have to plan, you have to know what is it that you have to be able to plan in terms of just like a budget. We have taken stock of exactly what is available at this moment and using the technologies available where they are, and we have to use that information to be able to deploy these resources. That is one. It's going to take place next month. So the survey report of all in most of the cases, we were told where diamonds were or where gold was and that, so on and so forth. Now we have that information as a nation. And we are jealously guarding that and protecting it. And we are strategically going to...
As a result of the airborne survey?
Correct. After that, you have the Mines and Minerals Act. That is the document that regulates that sector. How you get licenses, what you pay, and all of that. It had serious anomalies. It was not in our favor. That has been revamped. It's almost completed, and it will be presented to cabinet and then taken to parliament. So I had brought a freeze to that sector, and a lot of people were grumbling, but we need to exercise strategic patience if we have to use our resources in a way that it will benefit us. So we had frozen that sector so that we can sanitize. Extremely difficult, but there's pressure to go in there for mining companies to come in. You must have heard about the arbitration with the SL mining. The poor people in Lonsa want their employment, but we know we can get better employment for them. We have a better deal for them. So that's why we are appealing to everybody to be patient while we organize the sector. So when we go there is a mining code. That company coming knows that this is what they have to do, and that they are not going to take a lion's share of our resources. That we have rules, we have an act regulating the sector. That one also we come out very soon. So on the whole, besides the companies that have been there that are mining and the challenges we have with SL mining, we are organizing the sector for the benefit of society, for the benefit of the people of Sierra Leone. And very soon, in the years to come, you will see that the mining sector will actually be making its own contribution to revenue generation, which has been a great part of our successes, because most of what we have been able to do, we have generated the revenue from within the country.
And your strategy to address poverty alleviation through the introduction of the UNAFA fund?
Yes, this interview time is very small for us to address the many things we are doing to cater for different segments of our society. Even during the COVID lockdown, for the disabled, we shared a lot of food. Monies were given for all disabled around the country, thousands of them. We also identified and registered different households in the country. Monies were given because we know that COVID was going to hit us really hard, and the most vulnerable needed support. The market women were given money so that they can sustain livelihood. The MONAFA Fund, which is a national program, is meant to support young businessmen and women. And what is special about this, aside from the microcredit, that the amount is reasonable, relatively speaking. Before, they used to have microcredit for 1.5 million. Ours, the MONAFA fund starts at 5 million per person. You are trained to use that money to do business so that you can get livelihood. We don't come a month after to start to collect our money. It is 3 months after. And the
recovery strategy?
Not the recovery strategy. The interest is below 10%. So we are doing all of this to provide support, because we are truly leading a compassionate government, one that cares. Even how we rolled out the COVID, the lockdowns, you will see that we were intentional. We didn't want to put so much burden where others were closing for a month, 2 weeks, because of the data that we had about what was happening in our country, we went for 3 days at a time, and after that we never closed down. Some cities, some countries are still closed down because of the situation there. So in terms of optimism, I think as a country we may not see it, but others have attested to the fact that we are making progress. That is why the MCC, as an agency of the United States, recognized the liberal attitude, the progressive nature of this government, to say we want to have a compact with you and we can give you 400-500 million, depending on what that is going to be, as a grant, because we have, in 3 years, you have shown that you are a reliable government, progressive government, liberal government, and you are investing in your people, which is our own most important agenda.
3 years on, Your Excellency, what is your message for the people of Sierra Leone, and by extension, how do you hope to be remembered, especially as a retired general, building not only the human capital, but also looking at the development capacity of the military force, having an ever-ready combat army that is now readily transforming, going to food self-sufficiency, undertaking key exercise, and pretty much aware that there is soon going to be a resumption of road contracts and all of that. How would you like to be remembered? Your message to the people of this country?
Well, first I wanted to say to Sierra Leoneans that there is hardship, and Sierra Leone is not alone in this. When we call it a pandemic, because we call it that way because it has affected the whole world, and therefore there is bound to be hardship. We were just about taking off with our development programs and projects when Corona hit. It has, of course, distracted our attention, resources, all economies have contracted, and we are no exception to that. So whatever we are going through is momentary. We are going to get back on our feet, recover, and continue. The resilience in us as a nation that made us succeed, that made us put the war behind us, Ebola behind us, it's going to still come, it's alive, and it's going to help us go through Corona. We may not see it because we are too deep in it, but Sierra Leone is making progress. Sierra Leone is being recognized around the world, not for the stigma of wars, corruption, and all the bad things that used to happen, but as a nation that is making progress. We have been quoted as one of the nations that have provided the best leadership in terms of our response to COVID-19. We have been recognized as fighting corruption. We have been recognized as easing as doing a lot to ease the constraints that businesses go through when they come to establish. We have been recognized as a nation that is investing in human capital. And I say this again, human capital is the most important resource that we have. We speak about diamonds, gold, and all the others, but the most important resource we have is the human being. But the human being can never be useful in the 21st century if we don't invest in the human being, and that is what we call human capital development through education, skills training, and so on and so forth. That is why I chose human capital development as my flagship program, because I know that we have been at the receiving end of 3 industrial revolutions, the first, the second, and the third. I don't want us as a nation, small nation in West Africa, to be at the receiving end of the 4th industrial revolution, which is looming. And that is why we talk about quality and appropriate education that is fit for purpose in the 21st century and can make us thrive as a country in the 21st century. So we should be hopeful that we have started a journey. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. It's going to be long. But you can comfortably say that Sierra Leone is making progress, and that has been acknowledged and recognized by others around the world. Thank you.
On this note, I want to thank you so very much, Your Excellency, the President, for spending time in a busy schedule, making your way to our studio. Thank you so very much, sir.
Just a pleasure too.
And that's how I wrap up in this special edition of the program, marking the 40th of His Excellency the President, who visited our studio this morning. Looking forward to having you exceptional in subsequent editions, sir.
I'm no stranger to the studio.
I know, Your Excellency.
So I look forward to coming here again.
Thank you so very much, sir. Till then, my name is Abdul Rahman Kamal. Have a very wonderful day.
In a statement, His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada said, "Leadership is by example, and the launch of the vaccine symbolized hope and strategic commitment by his government and its multilateral and bilateral partners to protect the country, frontline health personnel, and most vulnerable groups of the country's population."
At this stage, it is a milestone that we've been trying to fight off COVID using measures, but now we have the vaccine. And thanks be to the People's Republic of China and the COVAX facility, we have 2 sets of vaccines here that are quite safe and also efficacious. I'm saying so from what I've heard from our specialists.
Receiving the scorecard, President Dr. Julius Maada thanked the American ambassador and the MCC for what he called a more objective evaluation of what his government was doing, adding that the MCC scorecard was an aggregation of different independent groups who were watching the government's governance system. As a country, we are happy for this progress, especially as it is related to energy and water, which are very important components. The Threshold program of the MCC has been of great help, and we hope that the foundation laid by this program will actually help us in those 2 sectors, President Bio noted.
The evaluation of what we are doing, especially as it relates to energy and water, which are very important components. The Threshold program has been a great help, and we hope that the foundation laid by the Threshold program will actually help us to build on that sector, the 2 sectors. But the fact that the MCC score is also an aggregation of different independent groups. For me, I always look forward to seeing how well we are faring on. So thank you very much.
The MCC, created in 2004, is an independent United States government agency that works to reduce global poverty through economic growth. It provides time-limited grants and assistance to poor countries like Sierra Leone that meant rigorous standard for good governance, from fighting corruption to respecting democratic rights. Delivering his keynote address, His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada said that his presence at Funkia in the west of the capital city was a testament of the fact that his government has placed priority on the role of the transport sector was playing to improve the standards of living of people and the enhancement of the nation's economic growth.
Promise made, promise kept. Yes, sir. And we make an also, we can't fulfill the promise. The promise that been said, we will give you this road, because this road not fit to them. You see when they want things stuff, they say Funkia Bunga another soul, but I have already got another soul. But we will make sure say we will come Funkia, we can't do tourism, because you know say good road there, and you will come instead of you saying you miss it, you say come by fish fire.
With the partnership and generosity of the People's Republic of China, we have delivered a well-built bridge in 5 months. Just as We have delivered a well-built bridge in 5 months, just as I announced back in November 2018. We are a talk and do government. On behalf of the government and people of Sierra Leone, we acknowledge with much gratitude the continued generosity and support of the government and people of the People's Republic of China. They have, for nearly 50 years of friendly relationship, consistently provided technical assistance and capacity building for various sectors, improved public health and healthcare institutions, enhanced livelihood and helped to modernize agriculture and develop infrastructure in our country.
In his keynote address before launching the project, President Dr. Julius Maada disclosed that in the South region, Sierra Leone will be the only country where partners has demonstrated short confidence to invest short money in a major infrastructure project, even during COVID-19. His Excellency, President Dr. Julius Maada has witnessed the signing of contract for the design, supply and installation of 11 kV sub-transmission and distribution network on Bon Shabu Island, southern Sierra Leone. In a statement before the signing of contract and commissioning of the start of the work, His Excellency, President Dr. Julius Maada said that Bond District had been neglected for a long time and that he was pleased that there were many projects for the district, which he said would dignify Bond and make it very attractive for the purpose of tourism.
The speaker when I you begin a way they represent now in and the other picking the owner get, including me self wait map now. They know they allow me to make a blow. They say we need for catch up na bonds. This now with district headquarters, but we all know say that we don't neglect them. We not for neglect them.
While addressing the press, His Excellency President Julius Maada stated that all persons who were summoned to the Commission of Inquiry were not summoned because of their ethnic group, their region, or their political party. They were summoned because they had been entrusted with a supreme responsibility to serve Sierra Leone. It is their conduct as individual and their decisions why they serve the country. His Excellency President Julius Maada thanked the commissioners for carrying out independent, fair and impartial investigations into allegations of corruption and abuse of public office and to make relevant findings and prefer appropriate recommendations to the government of Sierra Leone for their consideration.
The commissioners carrying out thorough, independent, fair and impartial investigation into the allegations of corruption and abuse of public office to make relevant findings and prepare appropriate recommendations to the government of Sierra Leone for our consideration. We are mindful that time and space could not permit an inquiry of this nature to cover every single economic, financial and administrative activity of the immediate post-government, past government. But the commissioner did the best in the circumstances.
The Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Animan Muhammad, has called on His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada to discuss efforts towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, the African Union's Agenda 2063, and support to the COVID-19 socio-economic response and the recovery plan. Vice President Dr. Mohamed Julde Jallow said he was honored and privileged to welcome the United Nations Deputy Secretary General and her entourage, noting that the visit was an opportunity to witness